Boa tarde, meu nome é Marta Espírito Santo, sou responsável pela Área Internacional da Quintela e Penal da Knight Frank. E hoje neste podcast temos um convidado especial e por isso o nosso podcast vai ser em inglês. Depois temos aqui o nosso parceiro e amigo Alex. Sorry, Alex. I need you to pronounce your name because I never can do it correctly.
So it's Koch de Gooreynd, but please, Alex is fine. Much more relaxed.
Ok, Alex to friends, Alex para os amigos. A Quintela e Penal é associada da Knight Frank desde 2021. Pertencemos a este network internacional incrível. E o Alex é o responsável na Knight Frank pelos mercados de Portugal, Suíça e Áustria. And I believe you're understanding me, Alex.
Sim, compreendo um pouco de português.
Really? And how's that? How's that possible?
Well, I was pretty lucky. So back in 1969, my family, I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and my family decided to move to Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
So my parents would love it if I told them that we were pioneers.
Wow.
We were one of the first to actually look at relocation completely and move out to Portugal as a family. So I was lucky enough to spend the first 17 years or so in Portugal, where I learned a little Portuguese. I forgot.
But you understand it?
I probably understand more than
when we talk.
There's nothing about. I speak Algarve Portuguese, which
it's still Portuguese.
It's still Portuguese. It's still Portuguese. Gets me a mechanic. Gives me a run.
Okay. So how was the Algarve by then?
I mean, you just think this was what 69. So by the time I remember the Algarve in those days was probably early 70s. I mean, it's incredible the difference really between what we see today. My mum's sad about it. She saw, we were lucky enough to see Portugal when it was, proper, authentic Portugal, and how it was very quiet. It was very sort of very local. And we got to know all the locals. We knew everybody, all the policemen locally, and everything, which was wonderful. But actually, in reality, there was a lot of poverty in those days. The housing quality wasn't great. And now you see that there's much more of, so I think for Portugal that must have seen an improvement. But what was interesting, I remember we were, on the roads, we seen more donkey carts than we were cars, So yeah, it's really changed. It's really changed. But I think, it's good to see that Portugal's moved on and that infrastructure is really improving.
But still, we maintain that authenticity, right?
I think, that's one of the main kind of reasons why a lot of us and a lot of our clients love parts of the Alentejo, parts of the area where, you've got, the main centres, of course, where you've got kind of Porto, Lisbon, Cascais, the Algarve, which are very built up, very international.
Mm-hmm.
But then you've got these massive areas of Portugal. I was lucky enough to cycle through some of them last week down to Porto, where you see some of these areas which are still very local Portuguese, unaffected, but obviously improved with time. So it was, you definitely got that authenticity.
Absolutely, and we still feel it in some places in Lisbon. That's, I believe that's what people are amazed about Portugal.
Yeah.
That we still keep that simple way of life, an easy way of life. So on a client's perspective, and from the typical British client that retired to Portugal to the Algarve to play golf, and passing to the clients that are looking for our country today, what is the main difference?
I think it goes back to sort of the experience that we had as a family. So if you think back sort of, 30, 40 years ago, the people that were coming over were pretty much holiday makers. And I would say a lot of the friends that we had when we were growing up here was people that would come out during the summer. They might come for 2 months, but they were coming to the summer. And they weren't living here all year round. And I think that sort of changed. I mean, if you go back to when I was here, just the infrastructure alone. My sister went to the one English-speaking international school in the Algarve. She didn't enjoy it, so my parents sent both her and I to boarding school in England from the age of 7. because there wasn't that opportunity. Nowadays, that's completely different. There's choices. The education quality is much higher. I know a lot of my clients that feel this is a really relaxed place to come and bring up the kids. You look back at the other side of things where, it used to take us 5.5 hours to drive to Lisbon, to the airport, flying out of Lisbon.
It was the national.
It was the national road. The first hour was windy roads, we'd all feel sick. It was. But
we all remember that in some way.
But now it's I'm coming back in a couple of weeks' time with my family. We're flying into Lisbon and driving down to the Algarve. It's 2.5 hours motorway. There's no traffic. It's lovely. So that infrastructure has meant that for a lot of our clients, the thought of relocation is a real alternative. Is a real opportunity for them to actually relocate. So it's no longer, as you say, that retired couple in a destination or the retirees. It's now people that want to make their life here. And I think that's really helped with that infrastructure improvement. And of course, obviously the climate, the safety, etc.
Absolutely. Do you think COVID and the lockdown has been a game changer for the market? The market all over the world, or the real estate market?
So we see, as you mentioned, I look after the Swiss market. So a lot of the ski resorts, we have people that are now making their base, they're looking at a chalet now, they're living in an apartment in, let's say, Verbier, and somewhere like that, where these resorts are much more of a year-round location. In the Alps this season, the biggest player in the Alps was Corentin. Reason being, because Corentin is a year-round destination. There is.
And it's spacing style now. It's stunning.
It's easily accessible from Geneva Airport. You can get out pretty easily. There's good shops. There's good quality of life. There's good choice. So you can understand why people would want to make that home, because it's not a resort where it's just about the ski.
Yeah.
The same could be said for here. The fact is that we can work from anywhere nowadays. We're not expected to just be in an office 24/7, every week. We are quite happy to work remotely, and why not do that from your villa in Portugal? And then if you need to go to a meeting, it's easy access from Porto, Lisbon, or even far away.
Yeah, it is.
Lots of flights.
No, it's a small country, so it's quite accessible.
Yeah.
And it's easy. Comparing Portugal market to Swiss market, it's not comparable.
Then it never was. It's becoming more and more so now.
Really?
Well, and not from a price for it.
Okay.
It's more of a. What's interesting is looking after Switzerland, you have a lot of conversations with people who are concentrating on the tax level.
Really?
Whereas in Portugal, that was never an issue. But now with the non-habitual residency, this is a key driver. We do a lot of work with the accountancy firms in London.
Absolutely.
Who are helping clients with their relocation to take advantage of more preferential tax arrangements. And Portugal is now pretty much on everybody's lips. So that NHR has definitely driven people to look at Portugal as a real alternative.
Okay. So the end of Golden Visa program is not really an issue for your clients?
Not really for our clients. We really look after the whole market. We don't just look after the uber luxury. Yes, we do focus on that a bit, but we also cover the entire market. And I think, that sort of lower end of the market, that's where we see the real change, where people are relocating and buying a house at 600,000, 700,000 euros rather than actually making their life here. So I think the Golden Visa is not really the key driver for a lot of our clients. We're not just selling blocks of apartments with 2-bedroom apartments for 500,000. We are dealing with people's homes, and so it's a little bit different.
So it's a life decision.
Yeah.
So what's the feeling to be involved in a life decision? And the life decision of relocation, because you sometimes, a lot of times, are involved in that decision.
Well, yeah, that's where I think my personal experience and working closely with you and the team, where we can help a client throughout the whole process. We're not just saying, here's a house, buy this one. It's this is how we can help you relocate. So whether it's helping them with the tax conversation in London, to say London, but for wherever they're based, that tax conversation, how do you relocate, how do you do it more efficiently, what's the best way for you to arrive in the country, and then you start looking more and more at the sort of the actual real estate. But sometimes the real estate becomes almost a secondary part, if you like.
Yep.
You need to focus. Historically, you're either an Algarve buyer or you're a Cascais Lisbon buyer. Whereas today, I think that's changing now, and you've got people who are looking at the Algarve, looking at Comporta, looking at Cascais, looking at other areas between Lisbon and Porto, let's say, where their lifestyle might be very different to what they have today in their own country. And, I think being part of that conversation and being able to have the knowledge of more than one area within the country has really helped. And actually, I do that a lot when it comes to Switzerland, because Switzerland, it's all about, each jurisdiction has a different tax rate. At least it's a little less.
Yeah.
But, it is all about lifestyle. What you want to get there. Otherwise, you're not going to enjoy your vacation.
And that's something we feel as a Knight Frank associate in that network, is that we work in a network. So we have clients, who decides to live in Portugal or in Italy or in London or in Dubai, we will have the same level of service.
Yeah.
Anything. At cost of two.
I think that's, you can't say, but it's very much that we're not a franchise business. We are a business where we look for partners that we feel are like-minded, that have a similar, quality of service, focusing on the client first rather than just trying to get a real estate deal done. And I think, where we see the biggest change, I know you're commencing a sort of private office team here. We have a private office in London. We have private office team now in New York, in Dubai, and in Singapore. These guys are focusing on the individual, what their requirements are. Perfect example, I had a client who lived in Portugal all year round, but he took his kids. He used to have a chalet in Verbier. So he'd go to Verbier every winter. The kids went to the international school in Verbier. When they finished that term, they'd go back to Portugal and carry on their education in the international schools.
Okay, so it's like an Erasmus, a student track, but it's in school.
But the thing is that you could do this now.
Absolutely.
And actually, as a network, we need to be joined up so we can help those clients do that process. And whether they're renting, whether they're buying, whether they're willing to buy big property, small property, it doesn't matter. It's just, we want to help them throughout that process. And when they work with a firm like Frank, they feel that, we should know what they're up to, because they've worked with you in Lisbon, let's say, and they've worked with our team in Verbier, so it's Knight Frank. So as far as they're concerned,
it's a network,
isn't it? So we've got to be joined up. And I think that's one of the things we're really focused on doing with that, sort of helping that client throughout the network.
So, talking about this network and the private office, that's a service you offer, and that's a very differentiating service, because it tracks ultra high net worth individuals. Do you think there is a luxury market in Portugal? Because we're not. Portugal is very different from London, every country is very different from each other. But, we don't have the same level of luxury than you have in London or in Paris. I'm sure. For in Dubai.
I think that's changing. And, if you look at the Lisbon market, the quality of the product that's coming in through apartments, etc., the quality of the finish has definitely improved in the last 5-10 years than it was before. As far as the luxury market at the moment, it seems to be focused towards the Algarve, probably in particular Quinta del Lago and Balelobo, where we've seen transactions taking place in the last sort of 2 years, north of 15 million euros. There was a transaction done last year just north of 20 million. And these, but we're also seeing what's interesting is that the change where people, the developers now, or individuals, are buying an older property, either building something completely new or renovating it massively, dressing it to the very highest standard. And those are the ones that are coming to the market at sort of 15 or 17 million. And it's not just one. There are, a good number of these properties coming into the market. And the demand is very much there. And we're seeing demand Yes, for people who already know the market, so let's say they have a small unit already and let's take into the levels, and they decide they want to go buy something much bigger because they have faith and trust in the market. They understand it. But the demand for that sort of level of finish is definitely there, which I would say up until 10 years ago was probably more akin to a Barbea market or a Côte d'Azur or something like that. Whereas now we're seeing that come up in Portugal. And as I say, very much towards the Algarve. I do think there is scope and demand for that to take place in places like Cascais and Lisbon, where Cascais in particular, because it's a very international location for people to relocate. You've got the space in Cascais, it's a little bit more of a relaxed atmosphere, but you're,
close to the sea.
Easy access into Lisbon.
Yeah.
But just from the apartments that, you showed me a couple of the developments that are coming into the market in Lisbon. The quality of that finish is much, much higher than it was before. And the fact that some of these apartments now are offered fully dressed, which in London and New York and Miami, it's usual, it's normal.
Yeah.
But, London learned from the US and I would say that
we are learning
from London and the US. We all sort of realize that actually that's what our clients now demand. A lot of these people, the idea now, especially, you know what it's like. If you were to order a sofa tomorrow, how long does that take before it arrives? Mm-hmm. Now, if you're just going to use this as an occasional property, or if you're relocating, you don't be waiting 6 months for a sofa to arrive. You want to get in straight away. So if you could buy something that's a concept, straight in, that's what people see.
Turnkey.
Yeah. And that's the case in Italy as well.
It's about service. It's about service.
It is. And I think that more and more, it's interesting in the Geneva market, nobody wanted to pay for a doorman and to have the services. And a developer decided to come up with a project which had a doorman, had a spa, a pool, all these services. It flew out the door.
Really?
Many of the Swiss are prepared to pay for this. And I think you need to have, you've got to have a happy medium. You can't go crazy and have the most uber luxury services that cost a fortune. So you have to manage that cost. But I think the demand for that level of finish and that level of service is absolutely very much there.
But then you have exactly the opposite in a market that, which is Comporta.
Yeah.
That, there is no service, no doorman, no concierge service, it's all about simplicity.
Yeah.
And it's the barefoot on the beach, barefoot in the house, barefoot chic. That's it.
Yeah, but Comporta is a real special case, isn't it? It's one of the few places in Europe now where people can really escape. Mm-hmm. And actually, we're all pretty time poor. So the idea, I joke with friends, people lend me a book and I go, when will I have time to read a book? I'm running around with 3 children and I've got a job and I'm traveling and etc. And I never have time to sit down and relax. And when you go away on holiday, you're always doing stuff. The kids want to go to a water park, or they want to go to this, or they want to go. You go to Porto, there's nothing.
Nothing.
But that's one of the joys of it. And I think that's one of the things why people love it, is because of its simplicity. The fact that it is complete relaxation. And that, yes, there's things to do, but there's not sort of Uber restaurants or big shops to go looking around. You go there and you go to escape as a family. Mm-hmm. How long is the beach? 55 kilometers, something like that long?
60 kilometers, I think. That's to see. Yes.
You know what? You just go find yourself a space on the beach and you become that family. And it's a little bit like we see in the mountains. And it's difficult to sort of put the mountains together. But, the mountains, it's an escape as a family unit. You go
it's just sports.
They ski together. Yeah. You're not sitting.
You have lunch together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Comfort is the same. And it's that total escape. And so I think for a lot of our clients, it's that bohemian escape that people absolutely love. And it's still, I think, seen as a hidden gem for a lot of people. So I think a lot of clients that I speak to kind of like me not to talk too much.
Okay.
But I think
keep it a secret.
It's a special place. And actually, what I think is really good about the developments that are coming up in Horta is that they are projects that will maintain that level.
They will maintain its period, yeah. That's, we're assisting that main developers from in Portugal have these big projects in Comporta that they maintaining and respecting the spirit of compartment.
And I think as long as that happens and it doesn't become a really built-up area with shopping malls and got...
No, I don't think...
I hope that won't happen. I don't think it will.
It's a protected area in Portugal. It's Alentejo, so it's very much protected. And I think we've learned from our mistakes. And we made some in the Algarve, namely...
But, you know, it's interesting, and there are still pockets in the Algarve where you get to.
Yes.
And, you know, if you go kind of 5 kilometers from the coast, you're in Portugal again. You know, you're not in this built-up area where,
yes.
you know, it's bar upon bar and full of tourists. It's, you know, if you actually wanted to go and explore, you know, for example, I used to love going up to Monchy.
It's a must.
It's a must. And I don't know any, I mentioned this to friends who are going out on holiday. They go, well, why would I want to go up into the mountains? I go cycling up there with my friends, and we go on a road where if we see 3 cars, you
get a beautiful view.
Oh my God. And you know, proper chicken burgery. Yeah. You know, the point is that you are going to these areas which are still proper Portugal, and they are within a 10-15 minute drive from the coast. So I think, you know, the thing is even in the Algarve, yes, the areas by the coast, some of it very built up, very busy in the summer, but actually very quickly you can escape and be somewhere else.
And that's, I believe that's something very Portuguese. You're in the middle of the city or in the coast or in a very developed region or part of the city, and 10 minutes away you're in the village.
Yeah.
Or you feel like in a village.
But, you know, Portugal is also, you know, the quality of the wine that's being served now, the quality of the restaurant choices, yeah, all of these has improved since, you know, we were here in the 70s. It was all stuff on the beach, and you probably wouldn't try too much of the wine.
It was rosé.
Whereas now, the quality of the wine coming out of the Douro and Setúbal and everywhere is absolutely top.
And you've been to Douro?
So I have. I was lucky enough to go and look at some of the Douro Valley and look at some of the property there back in October. And actually, as I say, earlier this month, I had a group of us that cycled the Douro, which was, again, absolutely breathtaking. It's a beautiful part of the world. And I think where one of us is starting to look at kind of the environmental impact of where we want to go, it's got eco-resorts that I can see the Douro and the Alentejo, the 2 areas for me where we'll start to see more of those kind of properties coming available, maybe developments with time, where they're very much a kind of escape into nature.
Do you think something comparable to Toscana?
Yeah, I think it probably is, actually. I'd say that's probably...
Or south of France, something like these vineyards domain or something like that.
I think, yeah, increasingly pilots now who are buying larger properties in Tuscany and France love the idea of something that has its own holding of some form, whether it's wine, whether it's olive oil, whether it's, you know, whatever. And so I think, you know, places where there's a lovely house with a small holding of vineyards, which somebody else takes care of, but maybe gives you a few bottles of your own brand, is something that I can see a lot of international clients. And when I was in Porto a couple of weeks ago, you know, where we arrived, we imagined to be able to sweep down the front by the bridge or the front and finish on our bikes. It was so full of people. And there were so many people down there for the weekend. It was sunny. It was, we were in late April, early May, and it was heaving, the place. So it's a really thriving city, loads to do, lots to happen. And it's interesting, I never quite understood the idea of people who wanted to invest in Portugal. I had to ask what team.
Yes.
And I was going, guys, you know, why would I want to come here? If I'm investing in Portugal, which was, again, another thing we saw a lot more of, people would look at the Lisbon market. There's infrastructure, the startup businesses that are coming into Lisbon. You can understand why you'd want to buy an apartment here to rent out. Whereas in Portugal, I don't understand it. You know, the weather's been not so good, or it's, you know, what are the choices here? And actually, the team just said, look, if you go onto a holiday website and you look for an apartment to rent for the weekend, you look at Porto,
it's the same price.
The cost is the same.
Yeah.
But the cost of real estate is 30% cheaper.
In Porto, yeah.
You're like, well, I can understand now why suddenly that's an opportunity. Because, yes, it's a lot of it's tourism, wine tourism, just general tourism. It's a city that you can walk around. It's smaller, but
It's
beautiful. So no, I was a new convert. I thought Porto was a lovely place.
So now let's say you're converted to Porto, you're convinced about Portugal, you're born in the Algarve, so you're a natural Portuguese.
I know. I think I've spoken to my family many times as to when we're moving, but they haven't quite made the move just yet. I'm lucky enough to be able to come here regularly for work. I'm lucky enough to come here occasionally for holiday as well. My cycle ride continues next year. We'll go from Porto down to Lisbon. So I'll be coming back enough times that I get my fix, that I'm okay with that.
Okay, and we'll be happy to have you here all the time. Thank you, Alex, for joining us. Terminamos aqui a nossa conversa com o nosso amigo e apaixonado por Portugal, Alex. Obrigada por ter aceito este convite e encontramos-nos no próximo episódio do Keep It Real.